Hi there, Jack here from Bridge Coffee Roasters. In this video, we're going to talk about the 10 steps in the process to applying for a lease on your coffee shop equipment. If you're watching this on YouTube, then make sure to hit the link down in the description. That'll take you to the full written article by my colleague Dakota, where she'll explain what a lease is and why you might want one for your equipment, and also what are some of the other options if you aren't successful in applying for a lease. So let's discuss the 10-step process to applying for a lease on your coffee equipment. So step 1 to applying for a lease on your coffee equipment is obvious, but it's decide on the equipment that you want to be leasing. One mistake that you definitely want to avoid is to now realize that as you're spreading the cost of the equipment over time, you can afford to pay for something a little bit more premium. It's always important to get the right balance between budget and requirements, and your supplier should help you here. You don't want to spend too much money on equipment that has features that you just won't be using in your day-to-day. And on the other side of the coin, you don't want to be going too much into the budget territory, where you might be buying equipment that just can't handle the kind of workloads that you need. So once you've decided on the equipment that you're going for, step 2 would be to contact your supplier and have them generate a quote based on the equipment that you've selected. If the supplier is anything like us, they might provide a few different price options within the quote. So for example, we always quote for equipment on a purchase, on a 3-year lease and a 5-year lease as well. So that moves nicely onto step 3, which is to decide the length of your lease repayment contract. So we typically work with customers on a 3 or 5-year lease repayment, and a 3-year just means that you'll be out of contract sooner, but your regular payments will be a little bit higher, obviously. A 5-year repayment schedule means that the regular payments will be a little bit lower, but obviously you'll be in contract for a longer period of time. That also means that a 5-year lease, the total cost will be slightly higher than a 3-year, just because you're paying for the extra privilege of borrowing money for a longer period of time. So once you're happy with a quote and you've chosen the supplier that you want to go with, step 4 is to let them know your company limited registration number. What that allows them to do is to go onto Companies House and perform a quick credit check of your business. So for a lease to be successful, the lease provider will perform a credit check. And we have found in the past that businesses that haven't been trading for 3 years and haven't been filing their accounts may not pass the credit check. So once we've conducted that credit check and we're pretty happy that you will be eligible for a lease, step 5 is for us to get in contact with our third-party leasing provider and give them all of the details of the lease and of your company so that they can perform the official credit check. The reason that we have to get involved with a third-party leasing provider is because we're not a bank, so we can't fund the process ourselves, and that just protects all parties from the financial risk. So once we've given the leasing provider details of the lease, they'll then perform the official credit check to make sure that you're eligible. And that can take anywhere from a few hours to a few weeks, depending on the complexity of the lease. So if the lease is rather simple and it's just covering the cost to one coffee machine, that could take just a few hours to be approved. But if the lease is a bit more complex and there's a few more moving parts and a lot more machines and money involved, the lease provider might need to sign off a few things internally before it can get that lease approved. If you do fail the credit check, there are a few other options. So once again, hit that link down in the description to read all about those. If you do manage to pass the credit check, then the lease provider will let us know as the supplier, and we'll go back to them with all of the details of the lease, all of the equipment, the amount of money involved, and where the machines are going to be installed, and that will let them draw up the contracts for the lease. The contract will be a legally binding document, and it contains information about where the machines are going to be installed, the specifications of the machines themselves, details of the direct debit, and the terms and conditions. Once you've been provided with the contracts, step 7 is to get those reviewed and signed by yourselves. They typically need to be signed by a director of your business, as listed on Companies House, but technically anyone from the business can sign them as long as they have written permission from a director. Once the contract is signed, it is now a legally binding document. So as the supplier, we now have the go ahead to schedule in the installs and to place orders from the manufacturers as well. Turnaround time between getting the contract signed and getting the machines installed is usually somewhere between 2 to 6 weeks, depending on the complexity of the equipment and availability. At step 9, the machines are being installed, inspected, and tested. And if you're going to be buying anything else from the supplier on a more regular basis, like coffee beans, for example, this is the point when you'll usually have your wholesale account set up so you can start putting those orders in place. And step 10, finally, everything is ready to go. Everything's been installed and you can now start serving delicious coffee and make regular payments back on your equipment over time. So that was the 10-step process behind applying for a lease on your coffee equipment. If you haven't guessed already, we are a coffee supplier that offers leasing for equipment. So if you need any more information on leasing or you want to find out a bit more about the equipment that we offer, feel free to head to our website and don't hesitate to get in touch. Stay tuned for more wholesale coffee insights by subscribing to the channel, and we'll see you in the next video.